Welcome to the Homeschool Together podcast. Where one working mom and a stay-at-home dad help you navigate the nuts and bolts of the growing and dynamic world of homeschooling.
With a focus on early learners, like me.
All the ins and outs of building and maintaining your homeschool life.
Homeschool.
Find out tips and tricks to make things like this easier.
I'm reading.
And ultimately, enjoy educating your kids. And what's that last thing?
Have fun together. Did I do good, Daddy?
Yeah, you did, sweetie. Good job. Hello, and welcome back to Homeschool Central, and this is Homeschool Together. This is Ariel and Matthew, and we are starting a whole month series. This is Self-Care Month.
Yeah,
and
parent self-care.
This is parent self-care. I know we talk a lot about homeschooling with our kids and curriculums and all this stuff, and we tend to be very kind of homeschool kids focused, and that's understandable. Because
it's our mission.
It's our mission. But this month, we are going to spend basically every Monday and Thursday episode for the entire month. We're going to be talking about various topics that we feel might pertain to a lot of you out there.
Yeah.
And especially since we do with a lot of early learners, and we tend to be stuck in the house a lot. The pandemic just passed. We are going to start off with something that Ariel and I have been working on for the better part of the last 12 to 14 months. And if you follow us on YouTube, you may have noticed a change from our first videos to our most recent videos. We're going to be talking a little bit about getting fit and what Ariel and I have done. And we know there's a lot of parents out there who are, homeschooling, they're home, their spouse is at work, and you're coming home and you guys have, really thought about like, oh, we want to change how we're doing, how much activity we have. Let's change how we're eating. Let's get a little bit more fit. And we are here to, Ariel's going to be nice and get you motivated, and I'm going to kick you in the butt and get you moving. And,
well, I think the whole point of this month, this whole month that, we're starting here with getting healthy, because that has been a really big focus for our last year.
And you may have heard us talking about these
We've
type
talked
of things
about it a little
throughout.
bit.
Yeah.
But I think the where this connects with homeschool is that homeschool really is a partnership between you and your child or your children. Yeah. And we focus so much on them and their needs, and we give so much of ourselves every day to not only the care of our children, just as little humans that are our dependents, but then we as homeschool parents give so much more of our, not just time, but our mental space to our kids, right? We're planning their lessons, and then we're executing those lessons, and we're thinking ahead, and we're thinking through challenges, and then we're talking about it with our spouse. When I get home from work, that's what we talk about. How did homeschool go today?
Yeah.
And
it's not even like a short-term thing or a medium-term thing. Like we're, from our standpoint, we're thinking about, colleges and like how are we going to get them into college?
Right.
And all that
There's so much more. It's not just, if they went to school, we would drop them off at school, we'd pick them up. And so that time is different. It's that we are thinking about them and their education and developing their skills and their well-being and all this stuff all the time. And I think as homeschool parents, we take on so much more. It is definitely the harder path. It would be way easier to drop your kids at school. For us, obviously there's, fights about homework and different things that has its own set of challenges, but we give a lot of ourselves to this journey, to this homeschool journey with our kids. We thought it would be really fun here as spring is underway to really talk about...
As spring has sprung.
To talk about ourselves a little bit and how we can find time for ourselves in the midst of having so much to do for our kids and wanting to give them... We want to give them everything, and sometimes we give them so much that we don't have a lot left for ourselves.
I absolutely agree with you, because you're right. You could probably be sitting there thinking at home going, my gosh, I run around with my head cut off all week, and the weekends are crazy as well. And how I want to, get a little bit healthier. I want to get a little bit fitter. This is something I've always wanted.
Or have personal goals I want to get done.
How do I couldn't do this. I struggled even trying to do this. We'll talk a little bit about this before we had kids, and now you have kids. It's like,
well, right. You're trying to make time
for. When are you going to be able to do that? When are you going to?
Your kids have all your priority. You're trying to make time for your spouse, for your friends, for your family, your parents and grandparents and extended family, and then you've got to make time for yourself too. So that's what this month is about. We thought we would start here. As Matt said, if you have watched us on YouTube, you would see that
us wasting away slowly.
There's been a really dramatic shift for us.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people ask us what we did.
But first we need to say disclaimer.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. We want to go through it, but
talk to your doctor, do all those things.
Right. We're just going to share with you today.
What we did.
People ask us what we did, and we answered this question all the time. We thought it would be good to do a podcast on it because there's been, I think we've lost like a combined 190 pounds.
We've lost 2x our children.
Right. It's a lot.
We've lost 4 kids.
But this is just our experience,
Yeah.
and you need to make sure that you do what's right for you. So definitely,
Exactly.
consult with your doctor before you take on any kind of a exercise or, food plan or anything. But we did want to share with you what we did because it was really dramatic, and both of us have been overweight for most of our lives.
Yeah.
It's something that we have struggled with forever, and we're 40 this year. And so it's something we've dealt with for a long, long time, and we've never felt like we found the key to unlocking how to change that and how to get control of that. And things have really changed for us in about, I'd say it's been about 16 months or so.
For you.
Yeah, and it's been a bit longer for you. So
Yeah, but like we'll talk a little bit about the nuance there because I think really the transformation for the most part has been in the last year or so. And you can see that from the videos at the beginning. But I think before we start any of this, I think, my standpoint is that the reason why we were successful, and we've said this a few times with talking to each other, is that we were both on the same team and we were both motivating each other. And we were both pushing each other, and it was a team effort. We kept each other accountable. Right. It doesn't mean like it has to be your spouse. It could be like a sister or a brother or a best friend or something like that, or another homeschool mom that you spend a lot of time with. It doesn't necessarily have to be somebody, but having that accountability. And we'll talk about a lot of the accountability tools that we used maybe in this episode a little bit, and then also in the next one. I think having the accountability was the biggest thing, and it wasn't just the accountability to yourself. But as accountability to each other, and I think that was the biggest part.
Yeah, I think that this really took a commitment from us both. And for the first time, it wasn't a diet or a workout program. This was really a journey for us. Yep. It was a healthy journey. And I didn't realize that it would be this easy with a few kind of basic fixes to the way that we thought about things, our mindsets. Yeah. I just didn't realize it was going to go this well. So let's give some background. Matt, give some background briefly about where you were prior to this last year and some of the kind of struggles that you've had. Yeah.
So basically I've been kind of an athlete for most of my life, high school sports, even into my 20s. I played a lot of rec sports in high school and college. And even when I was, working corporate life, we had some, pickup basketball teams and stuff. And so
you've always been the guy that liked to work out. You always liked to work out. That was your thing.
I've always been working out, lifting weights and doing things like that. I tried to kind of I kind of teased the idea of being a power lifter. So I was doing the basically heavy lifts, the bench press, squat and deadlift, and the combined weight total. I was trying to get into like the 1,100, 1,200 pound range. That was kind of where I was trying to work towards. So that I could maybe even start to compete locally in some amateur events and stuff like that. So like powerlifting was a really, really cool thing for me for a while. And then I kind of fell into a couple back injuries from that. And about 2 really bad back injuries from poor lifts, and back always really struggled with my lower back's always been an issue with me. I've had ankle issues as well from basketball from high school. And those kind of cascaded together as I got older. And that became a big problem for me, and I kind of ballooned out. I think at the peak, because I'm 6'6", so I'm tall, but I carry a lot of muscle mass, and I was carrying a lot of mass. So like, I think right as the pandemic started, I tipped in at like 360. It was big.
And that was the heaviest I think you've ever been.
Yeah, it was the heaviest I've ever been. And then really what started, moving forward from there, I've done a lot of dieting, a lot of working out, but I've never really gone in the route that we went. I
know you've tried a lot of things.
I've always tried a lot of different things, and it never really, I always saw it worked. I'm kind of like my body style is kind of a low carb friendly, so I tend to shed a lot of pounds that way. But I never really felt like
there was a time when you went paleo.
I
and
did for a while.
You did really.
It did well.
You did well. That was maybe 10 years ago.
Yeah, I think that was the lowest, like kind of my local minimum. If you think of it, sort
we
of
found
like
that really hard to sustain though.
but
as
it was,
a couple.
it was hard to sustain because I was kind of on my own on that one.
Yeah,
and so
I wasn't going to go for that.
Yeah, you weren't flying that way, and so that was a little tough. But and then once the kids came along, it was really, really challenging. So like I really empathize with a lot of the parents out there who are, you know, they're trying to get out there, trying to walk with their kids and try to take them to the park, but they end up just standing around a lot, and it's really hard to get that activity with the little kids. And so I'm really, really sympathetic to a lot of the moms and a few of the dads out there. So like I've been the stay-at-home dad for almost 7 years now. And I hit my peak, 3 years ago. And so even though I was home and I had all the spare time, and I had, even once the second one came along and she was still napping a lot, I still was in the gym. I was trying to get healthy.
You still worked out, but you were still quite heavy.
It was struggle. It was an absolute struggle. So that's kind of where I've been. So let's talk a little bit about your background.
Yes. I hate to work out. Absolutely hate it.
Yeah.
And I really love food. I love to cook and I love to eat.
That's a great combo.
Yeah.
I hate working.
I hate working out.
I absolutely
and I love
eating.
Detest it. Whereas you have always been into working out, like you like working out. That was something you enjoyed. I was like, ugh, why would someone do that for fun?
It was quiet.
I hated that. I've always hated it. I was, like, I don't know, a size 16 or something in high school. Not super heavy, but definitely had a lot of bullying because of weight throughout junior high and high school. And then I got into college, and right before we met, I slimmed down to, I think I was about a size 10.
I think when we met, or that we have that photo from the day we met, or our first date, it was like 3 or 4 days after we met. It was our first like real date where it took you to Shrek and then a pasta place. It was Shrek 2, super romantic.
I was living across campus and had to walk to all my classes at college.
Yeah.
And so even though I still ate atrociously, I ended up slimming down quite a bit.
Exactly.
Like not trying to. And I had a raging anxiety disorder where I wouldn't eat.
Yeah.
So
that always helps.
Right. So it was a really unhealthy. You were unhealthy because you were like working out, working through your issues. I was not eating with panic attacks and walking everywhere on campus. So I got to about a size 10, but we
were super healthy.
Yeah, we were both in a really unhealthy physical place.
Yeah.
And then once we got together, we both started like slowly gaining.
Yeah.
And I got out of college and I got my job, and like a lot of people, I started gaining.
Well, we sat at the desk for 8 to 10 hours a day.
So I was like 22, I had my job, and I gained basically every year. By the time I was like 25, I think I was at like 175. And then by the time we had when I got pregnant with my first daughter, I was 31 and I was 212. And, 4 years later, we got pregnant with our 3.5-ish years later, got pregnant with our second daughter, and I was like 224, and I'm only 5'5" on a good day. Sometimes I'm like 5'4.5", but I like to say it's 5'5". And then when
I'm 6'5.5", so I always round up to 6'6". So don't worry, I'll give you the half inch.
Thank you, my love. So I was at like 224 with her, and when I was pregnant, I got all the way up to like 253, maybe something like that when I was pregnant. I came off of the pregnancy and was at 230-ish.
Yeah.
And then. Yeah, at the start of 2022, I was at 238. Is the heaviest I'd ever been. I was wearing size 18 pants, and they were kind of tight. And I was wearing a 1X in tops. So I had made this decision to like, I just felt like I was always going to be heavy. I had always been heavy, aside from my poor anxiety days in college.
We were starting to resign ourselves to.
I got rid of all my skinny clothes I had been saving for 2 decades, and I was like, no, I'm going to accept myself and love myself, and I bought all these nice clothes for myself. Which I'm not saying is a bad way to go, but yeah. So we hit a couple of turning points for each of us when.
Yeah. So my first turning point was 2020, start of the pandemic. Kind of early on, I knew we were probably going to be sitting there for at least 5 or 6 months maybe, and lo and behold, it took a couple of years.
Yeah.
I said, well, if we're gonna be home, I'm gonna get a little bit more time to potentially work out a little bit more, so I might as well take advantage of that. We had that Christmas photos, and
Yeah, we'd had our family photos in like September.
yeah, it was actually
they were rough.
Yeah, they were two sets of photos that were pretty rough. The first one was it would be the 2019 Christmas photos that started early 2020, and so that was kind of like my big turning point. So I started really changing things up then. We'll go into details of kind of what we did, but that was kind of the big one. And then even though I made good progress over that year,
you basically just committed to working out more.
Yeah,
essentially.
I basically said, okay, I'm going to go 5 days a week, and I did, and and you know what, that actually helped.
I did nothing.
Yeah, you did nothing.
I just was home working during the pandemic.
I made a couple other little tweaks, but I made some decent progress. But then I thought I was making good progress. It was one of those things where like you don't even look at yourself in the mirror, so you don't realize you feel like you're making progress, but then when you look, you can get your pictures taken again.
Right, we got our pictures taken in fall of 2021.
Yeah,
and
so that would have been 2 years.
Yeah, you had been working pretty solidly for almost 2 years.
I felt pretty good. Like I had lost about 50 pounds over that period. So I was like, I think right at that period, I was about.
So that's like 2 years, 50 pounds, which was really great.
Which is a great pace. And
I had added 10 pounds and over the pandemic.
Yeah, and I think that's where mine was. And then coming out of that 2021, Christmas photos going into 2022. So this would have been the beginning of last year.
Yeah.
You had a turning point in your own life.
Right. So for me, I had snored really badly through the pregnancy.
I don't sleep well. So
yeah. And so once I got off the pregnancy, that was really great. My snoring went away. Then in 2021, as my weight started to go back up, I'd come off the pregnancy. I was nursing, and so I lost some of the weight. And then once I was no longer nursing, our daughter didn't nurse all that long.
Yeah.
So in 2021, she stopped. I started gaining the weight back.
Yeah.
And probably Q3 or something, 2021, I started snoring again.
Yeah.
And you were like, this is driving me crazy. I can't sleep in this bed anymore. Like, it was kind of awful. I had like industrial earplugs for you. It was really bad. And so we were trying different like sleep positions and different stuff. And I said in 2022, when it hit the new year, it was like part of my New Year's resolution.
Well, it was like the year of us. Like
2022, the year of you is what we said.
Yeah. I got my LASIK done. I got some physical therapy because I had a little bit of
your back. So we were going to do it all. We went and got you LASIK. We did the physical therapy.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm going to go into the doctor and see if I have like a deviated septum or something.
Yeah,
because
we'll get it taken care of, right?
I need to get this taken care of. So I went into the doctor and they were like, they did this home sleep study, which was a horrible night of sleep. And I came back and they were like, oh yeah, you have obstructive sleep apnea. And they showed me a variety of Darth Vader masks that I would have to wear for CPAPs for the rest of my life. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm kind of claustrophobic. And I was like, I don't think I could do this. And they're like, well, your oxygen levels are dipping and you're stopping breathing, many times per hour and all this stuff. So it was something I was going to have to do. But they said it was about a 4 month. About a 4 month delay to get a CPAP.
This was right in the middle of the
supply chain
shortage, which you were dealing with your own company, which was kind of funny.
Right. So they were like, "Oh, you need this," and I said, "Is there anything else I can do?" They go, "Oh no, you have to have this."
Yeah.
But sorry, you can't get it for 4 months. I'm like, "Well, am I gonna like die in the next 4 months while I'm waiting for this?"
Well,
they're like,
we took your numbers to my dad. My dad's
you should
a doctor,
be okay.
And he
yeah, your dad's a doctor,
medicine,
and he was like, "Oh,
these aren't terrible."
He was like, "Yeah, you're gonna be okay," but. He said, I think that if you might lose a little bit of weight, you probably, the folds in there are probably are heavy because of how heavy you are.
So when you relax and you hit that deep sleep or the REM, and
it's actually
just
closing my airway. And that's why I'm stopping breathing. And so he said, if you even lost like 10 pounds, that would probably take care of it.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to lose 10 pounds because I can't handle a Darth Vader mask. And I have 4 months to do it. If I can't do it in 4 months, I'm going to have to get this thing when it finally arrives. Yeah. So that was kind of my thing.
We were going to be 40 coming up. And
we were going to be 40.
We're starting to think about longevity and, life experiences and,
we're starting
chronic
to see,
illnesses.
We're starting to see our parents, right?
Yes.
Like my parents, they don't even tie their shoes. They're in their early 60s. They don't tie their shoes. They just slip them on because they cannot bend over and tie their own shoes, right?
Yeah.
And we were starting to realize this. And as you're getting your physical therapy on your back and I'm having this sleep apnea consultation with a doctor, we're kind of like...
I feel like we're unraveling.
Darn it. At some point, the decisions that you've made, they kind of catch up with you when you get to be a certain age. And we really had this realization that, gosh, you know, you were going to be 40 at the end of last year. I'm going to be 40 this year. Man, I really think that we have to make a change.
Yeah.
And so these were the big turning points for us, and the
all
commitment
all
that we
these
made.
things are happening while we're homeschooling, right? And so, like, again, this is the centerpiece of, you know, our lives is being impacted by, you know, how much sleep I'm getting and how, you know,
Right.
health issues here, and we don't want that to affect the children. And
Yeah,
so,
I wasn't getting enough oxygen at night, so
Yeah,
I'm
right.
tired, and with the planning and all the other things we had to do. So
outflows from this, we developed some goals. And what were these initial goals?
Right, so
just to overall lose a
my initial goal was I wanted to stop the snoring.
Exactly.
And I wanted to understand when the oxygen levels were better. And so my company had a program where you were going to get a Fitbit digital smart scale, and you were going to get a Fitbit if you did this like weight loss program with them for like 4 weeks.
And there was there was a consultant thing as well.
Yeah,
right?
you had to like read some literature, and then if you weighed in consistently, you would get the Fitbit.
Yeah.
And I really wanted the Fitbit because I actually ended up upgrading the Fitbit. I have a Charge 5, and the reason that I have that is because it has nightly oxygen.
It had the oxygen sensor.
And
yeah.
I wanted to see that. I wanted to see if I could lose a little bit of weight, was I going to see my oxygen numbers go up? And I
Yeah.
wanted to, even if you weren't hearing me snore anymore, am I still having obstructive sleep apnea occur? That was kind of, so my initial goal was very simple. Stop, keep breathing at night.
Yeah.
Stop snoring, keep breathing.
Well, and the thing was, I was just continuing with what I was doing.
Right.
And you,
At this
so
point-
you were coming along kind of with me.
Well, yeah, at this point you were like, I'm just keeping on. I'm doing my workouts.
I'm making good progress.
You're
Maybe I'll
like,
just keep going.
you'd hit some plateaus.
I had hit a plateau.
You
yeah.
weren't making gains like you wanted to be, but you were just keeping on. And I'm like, look, I got to do this thing. I'm committed to this thing.
Yeah. So how did we approach this? What was the approach of getting healthy? What was what they told you at the beginning?
So yeah,
Because this is the key, I think, is because you went on this one path, and I was already going on a path.
right.
And this is the key thing, is that you went on a path and things started happening.
It was so successful
that
that you jumped to the track
I jumped tracks
and came with me.
and came with you. Yeah.
So the key to this for me is I've done a lot of dieting.
Mm-hmm.
My mom was always overweight, and so I have been on a diet since I was like a teenager because she'd put our family on the diets. We did Atkins. We've done different varieties of low carb. You and I did paleo for a while. I've done Weight Watchers. I've done calorie counting with MyFitnessPal. I have done a lot of things. I've done diets before, and I was like, I just need to lose a little bit. And I don't want to say it's a diet because mentally for me, that's like a deal breaker.
Yeah.
Like diet, and it's all so negative.
Yeah.
I was like, look, I'm on a journey that I'm going to get myself healthy. I'm going to stop my sleep apnea. That was my first thing.
Yeah.
And I think that mental
You
shift is
had
really important.
You had a tangible goal, which was stop the apnea.
Right.
And do whatever that took to stop the apnea. It wasn't like a dieting thing, like, oh, I'm going to eat these type of things or
Right.
these type of things. It was just like, that's my goal. I need to eliminate this thing.
Right. Yeah. So it's not a diet, and it's also not an exercise program. It's not a workout plan because I have done those before. I've taken classes. We've had gym memberships.
The YMCA, doing the circuit class. And
Yeah,
all that stuff.
I did curves back in the day. Remember curves, ladies? Yes. I did curves back in the day.
Yeah, the lifetime membership thing.
Yeah, it was. Anyways, I've tried a lot of things, and I was like, I can't. This is a different mindset because those bring up a lot of negative feelings. They feel temporary, and I want to say, look, I'm on a healthy journey. And I didn't know how much I was going to lose because I've never really been able to lose very much. But whatever I was able to do, it was going to be a journey. I couldn't walk into this with all of that negativity and all of that baggage coming with me because I've been struggling with this my entire life. And I couldn't bring the baggage with me. That's not what this was about.
Yeah, exactly.
My other thing was I really wanted to create something that was sustainable. I did not want a crash diet. I didn't want to, go and get a physical trainer at the gym and then put in all this stuff and it be something that, was taking me away from the family.
Or
And
you couldn't
something,
afford long term or anything.
yeah,
like
I didn't
that.
want to do anything like that because I didn't want the apnea to come back. If I was able to successfully get rid of it, I wanted to get rid of it for good. So,
And you wanted to focus on, if there was any working out, it would be home based.
right. I wanted it to be something that would
walk out the garage door
Yep.
and go do something and come back in. So
be within our lifestyle.
because I was doing the YMCA for a little while there, but it was tough because I had to get up early, drive to the YMCA, do your workout, change, drive all the way
For
back.
me, that's not sustainable. So yeah. The other thing is I didn't want to use any kind of like, I didn't want to use a fad diet, and I didn't want to use any like program for foods or supplements or whatever, because that goes against the sustainability thing.
Yeah.
If I did shakes from a certain thing, I didn't want to do any of that.
You don't want to drink Soylent like our friend for the rest of his life?
Yeah, I just didn't want to do anything like that because I know that we're not going to keep paying for whatever it is.
Yeah.
And that to me says I was just going to go back to that weight again. I wanted to keep the weight off.
But then also you wanted something that was, because you had this goal, but you were also, an engineer, you're a project planner, you wanted things to be data driven.
Right. I do really like things to be data driven.
Yeah,
And because
no unknowns.
Right. Because I was going to get the Fitbit, I was like, okay, I'm going to weigh in, and I'm going to have the Fitbit, and I'm going to track all this on my phone, and I'm going to have a really good understanding, because I don't want this to happen again.
No.
And I was really kind of worried too, because my numbers had come back from the doctor as well. I had blood work done, and they were not great.
Yeah.
They were not great on a whole lot of, triglycerides, cholesterol.
But you had that intermediate goal, which was stop the apnea. And
Right. That was my first thing.
You're like, and I remember you telling me, like, when was I not snoring? I was like, oh, well, maybe like September or something like that.
So I was trying to think back about
20 pounds maybe.
Yeah, like
15
how
pounds.
much was that? How
And
much weight
you're
was
like,
it?
yeah, I could do this. 20 pounds, it's not a big deal.
I was really committed because I was really afraid of the Darth Vader mask. So how we did this, the first thing that I did once I got the Fitbit is I knew that step counting was going to be a thing.
Yeah.
And even before I got the Fitbit, I actually turned on the step counting on my phone.
Yeah.
And so I carried my phone with me everywhere.
And you paired it with the Fitbit app
Right.
at that time until your Fitbit came
Right.
out.
So the Fitbit app is free, and you can just pair your phone and say, oh, you're going to track movement with the phone. And you can just carry your phone around in your pocket and you can get steps. My mom actually does her steps that way because she doesn't like to wear the Fitbit tracker. So that's free. I started that and I went, holy cow. I barely move every day.
Oh, yeah.
A whole day would go by, I'd have like 1,500 steps. So
like, just to put that in perspective, 2,000, because our whole lives are now revolving around steps. 2,000 steps is a mile, essentially.
Right.
So you were
So for
you were
an
walking
entire
and moving,
day,
24-hour period, you would walk less than a mile.
Yeah, like 1,500 steps.
And to put that in perspective, if you're walking at a moderate pace, you could do a mile in 20 minutes. So
Right.
less than 20 minutes of walking a day.
Yeah, for the entire day. So the first thing that I did was,
And that's just around because we were at home in the pandemic. This isn't even like hard walking. This would be just like getting up, moving around.
right, like I couldn't even believe that even getting up and doing the laundry, I had not walked more than 1,500 steps in a day.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I was at home during that time still. I had not gone back to work quite yet. I was still a couple months from going back to work.
Yeah.
So the first thing I did was I looked up, like, how many steps should I get a day?
Yeah.
And it's interesting. You always hear this like 10,000 steps a day. And I read an article, and I'm not sure if we could find it. If we can, we'll link it. But I read an article that said that 10,000 steps in a day was like a marketing campaign by a Japanese company in like the 80s or 90s.
Sure.
Because it sounded good, right? It was a nice round number.
I sold pedometers, I'm sure.
Yeah, I don't remember what it was. But it was really good. It was a nice round number. It made everybody think 10,000 a day. But that they actually saw a really significant decrease in cardiovascular disease and high cholesterol and diabetes and all these factors.
A reduction of, was it morbidity factors, or there's some
bunch
term
of
like
morbidity
that.
factors.
Mortality factors.
We're all decreased by getting at least 7,000 steps a day,
which is about 3.5 miles.
Right. And so I was like, okay, that's going to be my goal. Then I'm going to put 7,000 a day as my goal. And that has been my goal since the end of January 2022 to now.
Yeah, that first week or two, it was tough to get up to that. You had to really get yourself moving. And
7,000 is not easy.
Yeah.
It's not hard either.
But
it is intentional.
Yeah. Once you make the habit and you do the intentionality and all that stuff, and you put a few tools and practices in place, the 7,000 becomes very easy to get. Like I think I've been on 10,000 for the last.
I would never say it's very easy. I would say it is not hard, but you must be intentional about it. You can't just live your life through your day. At least I can't. And just magically you get 7,000.
You have to be intentional about it.
You have to be.
I don't think I could. I think I might be able to get that because I'm with the kids and walking around a lot with 7,000. 10,000 for me, because that's typically my daily goal.
Yeah, you're a little higher than
higher than that. I have to be intentional there. I have to go for a little bit of walk. I have to move around. I have to pace
I have to be intentional for 7.
Yeah.
I can't just let my day go by. So
that's the steps.
that was my first part. I was like, okay, I want to get a minimum level of daily activity because, as I've said before, I hate to work out.
Yes.
I did not want to say that working out had to be a part of like every day, or even, I did look up and they said, and in my program, they said 3 times a week that you should get your heart rate up.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, we have an elliptical. We went ahead and bought a treadmill.
And we'll talk a little bit more about that in maybe a later episode.
Yeah, we'll talk about the equipment that we have, just in case you're interested, because we were really happy with the equipment we have, and we bought good equipment, and we're happy that we did. We bought the treadmill, and we have the elliptical, and I'm like, okay, I could do something 3 times a week.
And I've already got all my home garage stuff, so I have all my weights.
Right,
and stuff
you
like
have
that,
all your stuff.
that I had already been using, my kettlebells.
And I was like, look, I'll just do 30 minutes. I'll just do 30 minutes 3 times a week, because that was the minimum. They said 30 minutes 3 times a week, you should get your heart rate up. And I'm like, okay, I'll do something there. We put a TV out there so I could watch my trashy shows while, no one can see me.
You can rewatch Bridgerton 5
for the
times.
8th time.
Yeah.
So anyways, I was like, okay, I can do those things. And then they were like, all right, well, you got to log your food. And I'm like, well, shucks.
There it is.
I have logged my food before. I've done Weight Watchers. I've done my Fitness Pal. I've calorie counted.
I'll never forget. And you were just sitting there. Every time we were eating, you're sitting there on the phone and you're putting all the info in and you're doing it. And I'm like, I am never going to do that.
Right. You're like, that is the most unsustainable thing. And I even said right then, I was like,
I was a bad husband. I should have been supporting you a little better. I was like, that seems crazy.
I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this long term, but this is what they're saying to do. And I wanted to give it a real fair shake, right? So I used the Fitbit app to put in my calories.
And we'll talk a little bit more about the details next week.
Right. We're going to talk all about food stuff next week. But, suffice it to say, the Fitbit app will calculate a deficit for you.
Yeah.
So you can say, like, how aggressive is my goal to lose? You want to do very mild. So maybe that's a 250 calorie deficit a day. Do you want to be
500,
more aggressive, 500?
1,000?
I set it at 500. If you want to be more aggressive than that, you could do 750, which is what yours is set at.
Yeah.
And so it calculates for you through the day. And one of the things that I really appreciate about it is that as you move more, as your heart rate gets up, you either do a workout or you get more steps or whatever, then your calorie number goes up too.
Mm-hmm.
And you can really see, you're logging your food, and you can see that interplay between my exercise and my food.
Well, and they also calculate what your daily needs are. So, like, for example,
Exactly.
if you're just, and we'll talk more about this later, but they give you your base number, and then by the end of the day, you have done some activity, whether it's just walking, getting your 7,000 steps or whatever, and you've earned a few extra calories. But the thing that I think was surprising to both me and you was we needed to consume way less than we thought we needed. And we were consuming way more than we thought we were.
Right.
And that's the thing that I think was the shocking moment for you. And then at the beginning, you were like, wow, and you're doing really, really well. And then all of a sudden, I was like, wow, that's really good. So I started tracking my own just in the app, and I'm like, wow, I am eating a lot more calories than I think I need to.
Well, we had a big moment.
Yeah.
I think I had lost about 20 pounds because
you lost those first and
I lost like 20 pounds in like
but
a
that's
month and a
almost
half.
true for everybody who starts
You lose
diet,
a lot of water weight
and everything.
And I did lose quite a bit right away.
But what happened was within the first 2 months, the apnea went away, or the snoring went away.
Yeah, within the first 15 pounds, I stopped snoring.
Yes,
I was so excited. And really, when we started, just realizing when I started to look at the calories and go, oh, darn it, this is really high. And I know at that time you were kind of not paying as much attention to it, but
at that time
it was maybe like 3 or 4 weeks after I started. We had some friends over for dinner, and you grilled a bunch of meat. So we had sausages and hamburgers and all kinds of stuff. And our friends had made a homemade mac and cheese they brought. Yeah. And then they brought ice cream cookie sandwiches for dessert. And we had all this stuff.
Didn't we do the boozy milkshakes for that one?
No, we didn't do. We did boozy milkshakes earlier. But that day you had wanted to go out for hamburgers for lunch. And I'd been like, oh, okay, we can go for hamburgers for lunch. And I'd really tried to do good. And then when our friends had come that night, I had really struggled with dinner. And after they'd left, I went out and got on the treadmill because I needed some more calorie burn, right?
Yeah.
And you were like, I don't understand. Why was that such a problem? There was all this great protein on the table. And I was like, do you realize how much this all was? And we talked about it, and you were like,
Holy,
oh my gosh,
yeah.
I just consumed 3,500 calories in a meal. You realized it. And I think the big
like
thing.
a champ. Like I was like,
But you know,
was it Jimmy Chestnut eating all the
the
guy
big
who eats
thing
all the
for
hot dogs?
you, and I think that this was a real turning point for you, was
Yeah.
you worked out 5 days a week, but you never logged your food.
No.
You never cared about what you ate because you're like, hey, I've just worked out every day. I'm going to eat whatever I want. And then
and thus starts the line. You cannot outrun your fork.
Right. And then on the weekends, you would just eat whatever you wanted because
Yeah.
you worked out hard all week, right?
Yeah.
So then you never really lost. You just, you lost a certain amount, but it never went any further.
No.
And once you saw that I was losing, you were like, okay.
Yeah.
And that one meal was a big turning point when I was like, what do you mean?
That was
I was
when
like, I can't eat this way.
I decided to jump the tracks. But also, I had been doing for about a year, one of the things that helped me was I was doing some intermittent fasting, or also known as like time restricted eating. So I was limiting my eating window to say noon to 6 o'clock. So it was an 18-hour fasting thing. That's where you consume no calories whatsoever. Like that, we're not talking about I think you could do black coffee, but it's just water, coffee in that time period, and then anything that has calories starts your window. And so my window would open around noon, so right at lunchtime, and then I would eat dinner, and I would
at 6.
and I would eat. I would have a snack at 3 o'clock or something like that. And even within that window, I was eating too much.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I know there's a lot of people who do intermittent fasting who swear by it and it really improved my life, and it did. It helped me really limit the calorie intake and when I was doing it. But even in that time period, I was still eating too much. The thing that we've also done is we prioritize protein. This was something that we've realized over the course of the year, after we began to lose a lot, that the macros begin to be really important. At the beginning, you're focusing heavily on calories in, calories out, just a classic CECO calculation. You're in a constant deficit, and over the course of a week or so, you'll lose a pound and a half if you set yourself to that type of deficit, like 500. The classic is 500 calorie deficit every single day. 7 days is 3,500 calories, which is 1 pound of fat. Typically, it varies because there's always a lot of variation.
I lost between 1 and 2 pounds a week, pretty consistently.
For pretty much the whole.
Pretty
period.
much the whole time,
except the COVID month, and that was a weird
well,
month.
right, and then Christmas came. But I basically did, and one thing I'll say is I wasn't hungry.
Yeah.
But
so like there was a point where the calories came so down because as we're losing weight, the app is dynamically updating
it adjusts
on what you need, and eventually it started to get to the point where the macros mattered, the protein, carbohydrates, and fats. And so we began to prioritize protein. So the protein was the centerpiece of the meal to ensure that we were eating enough protein to sustain our muscle mass.
Right.
And we would not be losing muscle along with the fat. And that was really a big turning point that we did, I think sometime in like September timeframe.
Yeah, so the protein became really important for us, and all of this is tracked in the Fitbit app, and your macros between protein, fat, and carbs was really important. And next week we're going to talk all about the Fitbit and the way that we used it and the way that we were able to track calories and the way that it works to dynamically update as you work out. That data is critical. So if you've ever had problems counting calories and things before,
it can help you make really good decisions.
It can. And if you've ever had problems with that before, definitely come back for next week's episode because we've been doing it for 16 months and there's no issue at all for us in tracking. So
sample size of 2, success of 2.
Yeah, but it's totally worked for us.
I agree.
Proof is in the pudding. So
beyond the protein quality and the macros, that was towards the end of the year. The other thing that we did pretty much throughout the whole time was regular exercise. And it was 2 different amounts of exercise. For me, because I like to exercise, it became...
Crazy person.
Yeah, 5 days a week. I do about 5 days a week. I do anywhere between 40 to 60 minutes in that time period. On top of that, I also get, on average, about 10,000 steps. And some days, it's more like 14, 15,000 steps. And that's like, 7 to 8 miles. Some days I go crazy and I get 10 miles, like I get 20,000 steps. And these are days where I'm homeschooling and I'm with the kids and I'm doing
Right.
things.
We're taking them out for bike rides.
Taking them out for bike rides.
We're
and-
going for scootering down to the local neighborhood park.
Yeah. So that was kind of my exercise load. What was your exercise load for, roughly?
For the ladies. So I tried to get in 3 days a week.
Yeah.
When I walk and when I walk at lunchtime with my ladies that are at work, and I try to walk quickly enough that I can get my heart rate up and get some zone. They're called zone minutes on the Fitbit. That's any time that your heart rate is elevated. So I try to get zone minutes every single day during my 7,000. I'll go on some sort of a minor walk.
What's your numbers? It's 20 minutes for you is your goal for every day for zone minutes? I know that's an option you can set.
Yeah,
now.
so I have a 20-minute a day goal for zone.
I pretty much hit that every day, even on my rest days.
Yeah, even just getting my 7,000 steps.
And again, you can get 20 zone minutes. Like I get 20 zone minutes going for a walk. That's 1.5 miles long with the kids, with us, like we did today.
Yeah, we'll just go for a walk to the park.
I can get 20 zone minutes from that.
Yeah, it's not that hard.
It's not like you have to be running or anything
No,
like that.
I can get zone minutes doing chores in the house. It's just about how quickly you're moving. And so sometimes when
you could pace inside your house, like walking from one end to the other back.
Oh yeah, totally.
And just
get zone
continuously doing that, your heart rate will elevate over, I think 103 or whatever is the trigger number for me. And that's when I'm starting to get into zone minutes.
Exactly. And so
like,
anytime that I'm
like these type of zone minutes, these are things where you could be having a conversation on a phone and the person on the phone does not know you are walking or exercising or doing anything.
I literally did this yesterday.
Yeah.
I walked through Monday. I did this in I had a vendor phone call and I had to take it. And it was a 40-minute phone call talking about these issues with work. And I paced inside a conference room and I got a ton of zone minutes.
And that's the great way to talk about the intentionality of like working out and doing these type of things and the steps. You said, okay, I'm not going to sit at my desk and be a stone.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to get up and pace in a conference room.
Right.
And I'm going to get all these steps and I'm going to get zone minutes and I'm also going to do my work.
Right. Like a lot of times at the end of the night when we're recapping how homeschool's going or how things are going with the kids.
We're talking about the kids and stuff.
Right. We actually will pace between our living room and our kitchen and we'll just do circuits while we talk.
We do the laps.
Yeah, we will. We'll do laps while we'll talk while we talk.
Or we'll do it in the garage and pace in the garage back and forth.
We love having our workout station in the garage because we can take the monitor with us.
Yeah.
When the kids are sleeping, it's really easy for us. Having it out here, I think, is hugely important because I don't have to leave. I don't have to go anywhere. I don't have to change. I can just walk outside in my leggings and hop on the treadmill. Yeah. So for me, every day I want to get some zone minutes. So whenever I'm working on that 7,000, I just walk a little faster. Yep. It's not crazy. I'm not running.
And it's, again, you're not winded.
No, not like that.
Maybe a little winded when you first start, but that goes away really quick in the first, maybe
month
or so. Yeah, it goes away.
It goes away quickly. But then I try to do, my goal is to do 3 days a week of actually going out to do an exercise. Mm-hmm. And I do hate to work out. Yeah. So I really like to go out to the treadmill and either walk a really fast clip at an incline for my zone minutes, for my workout, quote unquote, while I watch something trashy on TV. Or I'll do 2 sessions of the elliptical, which is 20 minutes apiece while we watch TV. Yeah. And the way we have it set up, we can actually both be on machines and watching TV at the same time. Yeah, we'll talk about our setup later. But yeah, so for me, that's my goal. It's just, if I can get in 30 minutes 3 times a week. And oftentimes that time is at 10 o'clock at night after the kids have gone to bed. We've recorded our podcast.
That's the hard part is the going back to that idea of intentionality. It's really, really important to be intentional and getting out there and doing the work and prioritizing it. Like I know it's really, really hard at the end of the night and you're just really tired and be like, I got to get that workout in. I got to get that 20 minutes in.
I need those steps.
I need those last 1,000 steps. Otherwise, I don't hit my goal. And I have a 390-day streak going, and I don't want that to end.
Yeah,
right?
The steps is non-negotiable for me.
It's non-negotiable.
And having
the working out, I don't think I've missed a 5-day workout week in over a year and a half.
And I totally have missed some. I didn't miss them as much last year.
More than anything is non-negotiable. Yeah. And we don't do any borrowing. So I went on a 10-mile hike yesterday and I got 27,000 steps as part of my daily total.
True story.
And I'm not that's not a lending program. Every day is important and we did not skip a day. I don't think we ever skipped. I think We did one day. It was like one holiday day where we kind of skipped. But even
Christmas.
then, that day we still went for walks and we
Oh
got
yeah,
all
yeah.
our steps.
Even
and
on
we,
holidays, the steps are non-negotiable because I am operating on, like you say, like a 390-day streak, and I can't do.
You can't do that. Like,
I can't get rid of
hey,
it.
Listen, you're Cal Ripken of the step goal. You can't
I'm
give
so
up
into
that,
the
that
steps.
streak. Don't
But
end the
you
streak.
know, on holidays and things, I'm not worrying about the calories so much.
Yeah, that was a lot of discussion on like kind of what we did. Let's do the stats. So 2020, I was 360. By the time I started this whole process, I was 315. And my latest weigh-in, so that was 315 starting kind of in the April timeframe of last year.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm coming up on my 1 year kind of anniversary, and I'm down 60 since then. So I'm like 257. I think that's where I'm at now. And it has been a very steady downward push. I'm kind of hitting a plateau right now. So like the last month or so, I've kind of plateaued, but I've cracked through it, and I finally.
You're pretty close to your goal.
I'm very close. I'm about 17 pounds from my starting goal, which I thought was impossible.
I never could have imagined that I would be.
Where you are. But
where I
like
am.
my goal was 240. I said, oh, if I'm 240, I'm like Travis Kelce, Kansas City Chiefs tight end. That would be my size and my frame, and I'm starting to get to that point, but I'm like about 20 pounds away from that, but I'm starting to see it. Like I never thought it'd be there, because I put on so much muscle mass. I was also putting on muscle mass. That was kind of the thing. Like I think I've gotten stronger in that time period. So not only have I lost body fat, but I've also added muscle mass, which has been a wonderful thing for me, and that's why I prioritize the protein. But for you have had one hell of a transition. So where were you at the beginning? Your starting goal, your where you were at the start of your goal was where I'm trying to hit at the end of my goal, about 240.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So like, where are you right now?
Right. Yeah. So
give the people the total.
Right now I'm at 145.
Jesus, it's almost
I've
100.
lost 88 pounds.
Yeah.
So I was wearing an 18 in pants when I started this. I wear an 8 now.
Yeah.
And it's not a tight 8. It's just a solid 8. I was a 1X in tops, and now I'm wearing a small.
I got
some medium in some brands, but small.
I'm sure there's some like strap rig because I can do shoulder presses with your weight right now. I'm gonna borrow you.
I actually was able
on the road
to
on vacation.
I was able to take that picture where you put both of your legs in one pant leg.
Yeah.
It was actually shorts, but I was able to stand within the shorts. I feel so great now, and I never thought that I could lose this much weight. One of the things that
yeah, like that's been like you feel better.
Oh yeah, I feel amazing.
Snoring's gone, apnea's gone.
I sleep
you don't
great.
even think about it. And
the only issue that I have is that I have a bony butt now, and so I do have.
So true. I got one too, man. It's
I
crazy.
know. I'm like lacking padding, and I'm cold a lot because I
need-
don't have the blubber to keep me warm.
I'm out there on YouTube watching those like the glute exercises that all the girls are doing. And I'm like, man, I gotta get a bigger butt. I gotta put some muscle mass on.
I have to sleep with like a pillow between my knees because my knees are kind of bony. So that's. But one of the things that I just didn't realize about this, truthfully, it was easier than I thought it would be. I know we've talked about that a lot.
You and I have said this. The thing that
I wish we would have known this a decade ago or 2 decades ago.
We were most angry about is the fact that I'm not going to say it was easy because it's not easy. It's hard. It requires a lot of work. It requires a lot of dedication. But it is so shocking how easy it was. And I wish somebody would have just like, I wish I could go back in time and tell, 27-year-old Matt, be like, hey, dude, here it is. Here's your one. I can put it on a 5x6 index card of exactly what you need to do every single day, and just stick to it. And you're gonna have no problems.
Even if I didn't change my eating, if I just got 7,000 steps a day, I would have lost just from that.
Yeah.
Making some good eating changes definitely is important.
But knowing how much you need versus how much, it's one of the things that I've always known food was the thing, because, when I was doing the powerlifting and doing the strength training, and you're reading the magazines and you're watching the guys do the lifting videos and you're reading the blogs, they're always talking about the food. And I was just, willful ignorance
Yeah.
to ignore the thing. And I've told you this at the beginning, I told you this number of times that I've always known the food was probably the problem, but I just didn't want it because I loved it so much. And I just ignored it. And eventually I found out it was the food. And I would have to say, I wouldn't have had to lift a single weight, move a single weight, do any type of working out. I bet you I would have lost all this weight if I would have just watched my food.
It's funny too, because you think about the food, and
I enjoy working out because that's just something I enjoy doing.
Yeah,
but I bet you I could have done all of this, and I think you could have as well, not touching an elliptical, not touching a single,
there is a minimum level of daily activity though.
Getting the steps, I think, is a good thing. But if you just use the Fitbit tracker for your steps and for your calorie counting and the analysis of what you need on a daily basis, and if you just stay within that range and you don't cheat yourself and you actually count your calories, within a certain percentage, and we'll talk a little bit about the tricks on how we did that. I don't think you have to lift a single weight. I don't think you have to do a single aerobics class. You don't have to do anything, and you will, unless you have some medical issue, most people will hit their target. Yeah. On point.
I have a few friends at work who all have been watching this transformation, and they're all wanting to do it too, right? And so I've been kind of coaching some people through what I did, right? And everyone's bodies are different, and people respond differently to exercise and food and things. So it's not a one size fits all package, but it is pretty amazing making sure that you get a minimum level of exercise, and then not being mindful. I'm going to call it being mindful of your food. We're going to talk all about food next week, but the only thing I want to say about it here is we did not eat chicken breasts and salads all the time. No. We did not ever starve ourselves. No. We did not eat things we don't like. We didn't do any of that. No. We were very I still eat Alfredo sauce. I love Alfredo sauce. One of my favorite things. I still eat that.
I love cheese, and I eat a lot of cheese.
Right. It's not that I still don't eat the things I did before. It's like I'll do something different with it. It's, instead of pre-mixing the pasta with the sauce, I'll put the sauce on top. That way I know how much sauce it is. Just it's like the little things. But I don't want anyone to think like, well, yeah, but I love food and I can't eat dry chicken breasts with, quinoa. I did not do that. That sounds awful, and I love to cook, and I love to make things from scratch. I love to make buttermilk biscuits and stuff. It's not that at all. We
had that last week. We had buttermilk biscuits.
Yeah, we had biscuits and gravy.
Yeah.
I mean, we had biscuits and gravy, and it was within plan.
Yours is good.
Yeah, it's great, but it's like, I'm going to eat one biscuit, not 2.5. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's things like that where, now that we count and we do understand what it means, and we do understand how hard it is to get those calories, we're making different choices. So we're going to talk in depth about food because it is such a big part of this, but this is a good way to start it. And, at this point, I'm hopeful. I never thought I would see single digit pant sizes. People said I would. You said I would after I was like halfway through the year.
Well, when I saw the progress you were making and how you were staying to it and how sustainable it was and all the words you were saying around the time, I said, no, you're going to see it. I know you're going to see it.
I mean, I lost 88 pounds in like 13 and a half months.
Yep.
So it's, it wasn't a really long time period.
No, and
certainly.
That's, I think, the biggest thing that
I never could have thought I would have been here when I started this with the goal of not having sleep apnea anymore.
Oh, I know.
I never thought that I could reach this point.
It's amazing what you can
accomplish. It gets kind of addictive.
Yeah,
in
12 months.
Now that my stomach is smaller, I'm not eating that volume anyways because I get full.
You've gone from where you've never thought you would want to be or where you felt bad about yourself and you were worried about where you were going to where you never thought you could be.
Yeah,
and
I thought it could be here.
Didn't realize it was easy as to get there as it was, and how sustainable it is. And that's one of the things that I think that we would like to just push across is that we know you're all out there homeschooling. We know let's bring it back to homeschooling. It's like we know you're all out there homeschooling. You're trying to get fit. And you're trying to, you look your best. Your kids are you're looking at your kids and you're going, I want to be here 35 years from now.
And one of the things that really worries me the most is I don't want our kids to have this problem. I want our kids to be healthy when they're adults. And I don't want them to have to go on a big health journey like we did. And we've talked a lot to our kids because, our
I
daughter,
hear us talking about it. Yeah.
right. Our older daughter will say, well, is that too much calories for your mom, or is that okay? And, am I skinny, or am I,
Yeah, we don't
she's,
wanna even-
she's starting to get language, and we have to be super careful. So if this is something that you're doing, just know that, we're with our kids so much that they're watching us put in our calories. They're watching us talk about, making different choices.
Yeah, hey,
let's have the corn tortillas instead of the
yeah,
flour
let's
tortillas.
go for a walk, Mom. You get some more steps,
Right. Or our daughter's very aware.
Yeah.
We've really had to be very, very careful, though, with her about this isn't about being thin. This is about mommy and daddy were not being healthy.
Yeah.
And now we're trying to be healthy, and you are totally healthy.
Yeah.
This isn't, and so she does understand, but there was a time period there that it was really difficult, and she was getting some incorrect signals from us.
We had to watch our language and
do be careful about that.
This was a little bit of a long podcast, but it was important for us to discuss, I think, all
Right.
these various things, and always bringing it back to homeschool, talking about being fit, talking about being healthier, talking about being, it allows us to be more present with our kids, especially if we're trying to get outside, we're trying to be active.
I sleep so much better.
We sleep
and you
better.
and you do too. You sleep amazingly well.
One
now.
thing that I forgot to mention is that I don't have any vices, but I do enjoy myself some diet soda. One of the big things that I kicked this last year was not only did I go on this journey, but I kicked the caffeine. So I went caffeine free on all my sodas, and now I'm trying to kick the caffeine free soda, which is proving to be like, I think Ozzy Osbourne said, he goes, I kicked all the drugs, but smoking was the hardest. And I think for me, it's going to be kicking the soda is going to be the hard one. But I went caffeine free, and I found my sleep drastically improved. And from a homeschool perspective, being more rested, being healthier, being more active, being more physical, eating better, running at peak performance, working out, having more stamina. I just feel like my day-to-day is a lot more enjoyable than it was even a year ago. I'm not tired. I want to go outside with my kids. I want to throw the ball. I want to go walking with them. I want to ride bikes. I want to take them to the park.
I feel like my brain is more active in the evenings. We plan homeschool, and I'm more awake. I used to get tired a lot through the day. I don't feel that way. I feel rested and ready to really tackle it. I think that we are giving our kids a much better version of ourselves mentally. Yeah, and so not just physically.
To kind of wrap it back into the self-care is if you can make yourself a better performing parent, whether it's more restful, more healthy, more present, more athletic, having more stamina, I think your children are going to have a better experience. And if this is something
there's a benefit there,
you feel that has been plaguing you and you're ready to take that jump, I'll let you know that it wasn't, we didn't have to wait a year to see a lot of the benefits. It was really within those first three or 4 months, and that it became unbelievably addictive. So this episode is coming out on the Monday that it's coming out is kind of like my 1 year anniversary. So if there's anybody out there listening, and I know for Ariel it would be like, this is like 14, 15 months, 16 months for you. I want to let you know it's 2023. By spring of 2024, you can be a completely different person, and it doesn't take a lot of work. It's not surprising. It just requires you to have the consistency and to be continuous on your efforts.
It's that daily commitment. And I think that the support that we've given each other has been hugely helpful.
It has been.
When one of us is, not keeping to the plan
it or something,
it is hard,
but I'm also thinking
doing it together is the best thing,
because I'm always thinking about what how has your day been. Well, then you ask, well, how's your day been? I said, it was a rough lunch with the girls because I was munching on things. She goes, okay, let's do salads with chicken on the top today and do something else. Let's do something lighter for dinner.
Let's think about that and be intentional about all of our meals to support each other.
It's so wonderful to have the support, and I don't think I could have done it without you. I think I could have done a lot of it, but I don't think I'd be where I am, like the 100% change that I've been on. I don't think I could be here without the support, and I think that was the big driver. And it doesn't have to necessarily be a spouse, but having support and accountability on a daily basis. The spouse is great, though. The spouse is great.
It's the closest person to you, and I think that I just wish that I had known earlier how much getting that bit more of daily activity and being just more aware of what I was eating, those things. I thought. I'd have to crash. I'd have to
Yeah.
do something drastic. None of this was drastic. This was all
steady.
very, very
and steady.
gentle.
Yep.
And
Doable.
it is
achievable.
totally sustainable. We had a big Christmas, and in January we were sick a bunch, and
Yeah.
we had people visiting, and there was plenty of days I was not working out. I always got my 7,000 steps because I'm on a streak, but plenty of days I did not work out. I've had inconsistent workouts because I keep getting sick, and I've had higher calorie days, and I have not gained weight because this is a sustainable. I feel like we've made a sustainable lifestyle change.
Yeah.
In that we are very intentional about movement now. And we're intentional about protein and things. And I think that has really made a difference. I don't think that you should give up if you've tried,
We've tried them all too.
if you've tried all the diets and everything, don't give up on it and really concentrate on that movement, because I think you'll be very surprised what the movement and being intentional with that and being intentional with your food will do for you. So next week, we're going to talk all about the food.
We'll geek out on the food.
Yep, and we'll go into that because that is a huge part. And as you said, I think more important than even the exercise is the food.
Yeah. You can't outrun your fork.
You really can't. So we'll talk all about that next week because we still do love to cook and we're not eating weird diet food. We promise. So. No.
So let's end it quickly. What we're consuming, since this is the self-care month. Ariel, tell the people about the book series, The Fairies.
Yeah, well, we figured we should talk about what we're consuming because this is our month. Sure. So I'm consuming the series A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas, which is a fantasy series.
Was it just optioned into a TV show?
It was just optioned in. Yeah, you told me that it was going to be made into a TV show.
I think so, yeah.
And I was like, "Ooh, I'm there for that." So I started reading it. I'm on the 4th book now. So it's an adult book. This is not for children.
Not for children.
Nope, not for children. The first book is loosely based on a Beauty and the Beast type fairy tale. I don't know what the other books, if they're loosely based on fairy tales, but I didn't put them together. It's very loose. I would not have even come up with that if somebody didn't tell me. But it's about a human, and there's half of the British Isles is fairy. There's fae, and they have all their own courts and their own, politics, and there's magic, and there's
love.
there's adult time. So it's very much a girl book, but I've really enjoyed it. I think it's definitely kept my attention through 4 books, and I think it's a New York Times bestseller. So if you're looking for a new series for you moms, that's got a bit of romance, a bit of fantasy, a bit of action and adventure, then this is a really good series, and it will soon be made into a show. So that's A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas.
All right, let's go get some steps.
Thanks so much for joining us today and making us a part of your homeschool journey. Please engage with us on social media. Join our Homeschool Together podcast group on Facebook and find us at Homeschool Together Podcast on Instagram. We'd love to hear your feedback, questions, and recommendations. Until next time.
Happy homeschooling!